Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome back. Before discussing today's material, let's review the answers to last week's quiz. Make sure you get all the correct answers, because understanding the vowel markings, anusvaras, and visargas, in addition to being able to recognize the vowels and consonants and their shapes, is going to be absolutely critical to be able to understand the next several lessons. So without further ado, let's review the answers to last week's quiz. The first answer, if you did it correctly, should read as Kamsa. Kamsa is Lord Krishna's maternal uncle. He was the evil king of Mathura who tormented and tortured his subjects. He was the direct reason why Lord Krishna advented on earth. He did his pastimes and ultimately killed King Kamsa and delivered the citizens of Mathura. The second word reads as Namaha. Namaha means respectful obeisances to. The third word is Raghuvamsha. Raghuvamsha, if you split the word down, you'll get Raghu, which means King Raghu, and Vamsha, which means dynasty. So Raghuvamsha means the dynasty of King Raghu. King Raghu was the ancestor of Lord Ramachandra. And the last word is Vimshatihi. Vimshatihi means 20 in Sanskrit. And if you wrote these words correctly, it should look like this. So the first word, evam, has many translations. It could either mean and, or thus, or in this manner. It depends on the context of how the word evam is used in Sanskrit texts. The second word is padaratam. Padaratam means attraction to the lotus feet. The third word is not a Sanskrit word, it's actually a Hindi word. We'll talk about Hindi pronunciations in lesson 20. However, this word is actually read as balakon. Balakon means boys or children. And the fourth word is ekanavatihi. Eka means one, and navatihi means 90. So this word means 91 in Sanskrit. So now we're going to begin our advanced material, and we're going to do so through nasal element consonant clusters. First, let's define what a consonant cluster is. A consonant cluster is a series of consonants that are blended together to form one sound with no vowels in between the letters. An example in English I can provide you is the word train. Train has a TR combination which gives one syllable sound. Train. There is no vowel between the T and the R. If there was a vowel, then you get the sound terrain. Terrain and train have two different meanings. Train is the large vehicle that goes on railroad tracks, and terrain is a term to describe landforms on Earth. Therefore, it's very important to distinguish consonant clusters to prevent different meanings. In Devanagari, forming consonant clusters are a little more complicated than just sticking two letters together. Therefore, I've devoted 3 lessons in this series to discuss consonant clusters. In this lesson, lesson 15, we'll discuss nasal elements. In lesson 16, we'll talk about mixing 2 or more different letters in the alphabet. And lesson 17, we'll deal with special exceptions to our rules on how to form clusters. Before discussing clusters, let's quickly look at the discrete consonants, or the plosives. Yes, I know you've seen this multiple times, but it doesn't hurt to review. There's also a very important point that I'm going to bring up in this slide. So as you know, there are 5 categories of discrete or plosive consonants. We have the gutturals, or the sounds produced by the throat, the palatals, or the sounds that are produced by the palate, the retroflex letters, which are sounds that are produced by taking the tongue and curling it, striking the roof of the palate, dentals, which are sounds by the tongue touching the teeth, and finally the labials, which are sounds produced by both lips. The first letter in each of these rows are the voiceless consonants: ka, cha, ta, ta, and ba. The second group are consonants that are aspirated forms of the voiceless letter: ka, cha, ta, ta, and pa. The third letter in each category is the voiced consonant. So you get g, j, d, d, and b. The fourth is the aspirated form of the voiced consonant. G, j, d, d, and b. And finally, you have the nasal element for each category. La, nya, ra, na, and ma. In this lesson, we're going to focus on the nasal element of each category. We're going to form clusters of the nasal element with the letters of its own varga. So as you saw in the last slide, each of the discrete consonant groups have a nasal element. But it's called a nasal element because it uses the nasal passages as well as a specific region of the varga. So for example, nya is a palate-based letter, but it also uses the nasal passages to produce that sound. Nya. In terms of this lesson, we're going to combine the nasal element of each varga with other letters of its own varga. So for instance, ka varga uses the letter la as its nasal element. In this lesson, we're going to try to form consonant clusters with la to form nka, nka, nga, and nga. We're going to form consonant clusters with the nasal element with other letters of its own varga. So how do we write nka? How do we combine la and ka together? What we do is first we draw a smaller version of la on top, and then we draw a smaller version of ka without the horizontal crossbar, and we connect it to the bottom of la, like such, and we get nka. For la plus ka, we take a smaller version of la, and we fuse that with a smaller version of ka without the crossbar on the bottom to get nka. Would you like to try to guess what we do with la and ga to get nga? That's right. You draw a smaller version of la, followed by a smaller version of ga without the crossbar to get nga. Same thing with la and ga to get nga. Draw a smaller version of la, followed by the smaller version of ga without the crossbar, and you get nga. So this is what the ka varga looks like with the nasal elements combined. You have nka, nka, nga, and nga. So we got the ka varga down. Now we have 4 more vargas to go. How do we form consonant clusters with nya, ra, na, and ma? You'll notice that these 4 letters have a vertical line built into the letter, as you can see right over here. And that will be of great use to us. So if we want to form a consonant cluster with the letter nya, to form the cluster we need to remove the vertical bar to get the half letter form. You'll see the letter nya here, but if you get rid of the vertical line, you get n, the half letter form of nya. Then to connect this with another letter, like cha to get ncha, all you have to do is write the full letter right next to the half letter of the first letter. So half letter form of nya, which is the first letter, combined with cha, the full form of cha, to get ncha. Ncha. Why don't you try writing the combinations of nya with the other letters of the cha varga? Write ncha, nja, and ncha. Feel free to pause the video and hit play to make sure your answers are correct. If you did it correctly, you'll see that ncha, as we just did before, is just the half letter form of nya with the full form of cha to get ncha. Likewise, ncha is formed by taking the half letter form of nya with the full form of cha to get ncha. Likewise, half letter form of nya with the full form of ja gets nja. And lastly, the half letter form of nya with the full form of ja to get nja. Just to make sure you got the idea down, try writing combinations with the letter na with the letters of the ta varga. So try writing nta, nta, nda, and nda. Again, please feel free to pause the video and hit play to make sure you got the answers correct. Just like with combinations with the letter nya, ra has a vertical line built into the letter. So to form combinations with other letters, you need to get the letter ra to its half letter form. And to do so, all you have to do is simply get rid of the vertical line built into the letter to get the half letter form of ra. Once you have the half letter form of ra, all you have to do is combine it with the full letter form of the second letter you wish to combine ra to. So if you wish to write nta, then you write the half letter form of ra with the full letter form of ta to get nta. And here's the table of the combinations with ra with the other letters of the ta varga. You have nta, nta, nda, and nda. You notice all of them use the half letter form of ra with the full form of the second letter that's being combined to. The same goes with the letter na. When combining na with the other letters of the ta varga, this is what it looks like. The half letter form of na with ta gets nta. Likewise, the half letter form of na with ta gets nta. The half letter form of na with da gets nda. And the half letter form of na with da gets nda. Therefore, it should be no surprise that the combinations with the letter ma follow the same pattern, because ma has a vertical line built into it. Therefore, by removing the vertical line from the letter ma, you're able to form combinations such as mpa, mpa, mba, and mbha. So now we're going to expand our rules in terms of writing and reading Devanagari words. As always, the first step is to break each syllable down. Then you're going to place the letters in sequential order, and you're going to identify the letters as we've done before, but also identify any consonant clusters. You'll see that with the la, that is done by stacking on top of the other letters of the ka varga, whereas the other letters in the alphabet, nya, na, na, and ma, are formed by taking half letter forms of those letters and combining it with the full form of the second letter. So you're going to recognize that and transcribe accordingly. Then you'll, of course, apply any vowel markings or viramas and any anusvaras or visargas. So let's practice writing some words. The first word I'm going to have you write is mridanga, one of my favorite words. So the first step is you're going to break them down by syllable. And if you listen correctly, you'll see that there are 3 syllables. Mr, da, and nga. You may be inclined to break this down as mr, dung, and ga. However, ng and ga form a consonant cluster. You cannot split syllables by consonant clusters. So nga is one syllable. So it's mr, da, and nga. So the next step is we're going to transcribe each syllable. So the first syllable uses the consonant ma. So you write ma down. But on top of the ma, we have the vowel r to it, the retroflex vowel r. So we draw the diacritic marking that corresponds to the letter r, which is the little C shape beneath the letter, to get mr. The second syllable is da. There are no vowel markings or anything special done to the letter da, so we leave it as is. And finally, the last syllable is the letter nga. If you recall, to form the consonant clusters with the letter nga, we do that by stacking. We draw the smaller version of nga on top, followed by the letter ga beneath it without the crossbar, and we get nga. In this word, there are no anusvaras or visargas. And this is how we write the word mridanga. Mridanga. This is the sacred drum that we see in kirtans and bhajans. This is also the name of the drum that's used to accompany Carnatic music of South India. For your information, KKSongs.org does have a mridanga course where we teach how to play the Bengali khol or the mridanga drum in bhajans and kirtans. Please check out that video series if you're interested. Let's do another writing example. Let's write the name Kunti. So the first step is break each syllable down. And remember, consonant clusters are their own syllable. You can't break a cluster down in terms of dividing syllables. So the proper division will be ku and nti. Not kun and ti, but it's ku and nti. Next, we're going to transcribe each syllable. So the first syllable uses the letter ka, and the short u is applied to the ka to get ku, so we draw the symbol for the short u beneath it to get ku. And then to the right, the second syllable, we have nti, which is a consonant cluster formed by writing the half letter na, because the first letter of the consonant cluster is na, so you write the half letter form of na. And then we follow it with the full form of ta to get nta. Now, on the symbol nta, we have the long e applied to it. So we draw the shape for the long e to the right to get nti. There are no anusvaras or visargas on this word. So this is how we write the name Kunti. Kunti is the mother of the 5 Pandavas. Let's do another writing example. Let's write the name Nilakantha. So the first step is to break them down by syllable. If you listen carefully, you'll see that there are 4 syllables. But the question is, how do we break them down? So we got ni, which is pretty straightforward. La, which is also pretty straightforward. But the next syllable is going to be ka. And then finally, nta. Remember, syllable breakdowns cannot break any consonant clusters. So nta acts as its own syllable. Next, we're going to transcribe each and every syllable. So the first syllable is the letter na, with the long e applied to it to get ni. The second syllable is the letter la. There's nothing special done to the letter la, so we just write it as is. The next syllable is ka. Likewise, you don't have anything special done to it, no vowel markings or anything like that, so you just write ka as is. But the last syllable is a consonant cluster. It is the half letter form of rna, since that starts the cluster, followed by the full form of ta to get nta. The letter nta does not have any vowel markings or anything applied to the symbol, so therefore we just write it as is. There are no anusvaras or visargas in this word. So this is how you write Nilakantha. If you break the word down, Nila means blue and Kantha means throat. So literally this means blue-throated. However, this is also another name for Lord Shiva. If you read the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes the churning of the ocean. And the first thing that came out of the churning of the ocean was poison. And Lord Shiva drank the poison. Therefore, by doing so, his throat became blue, which is why another name for him is Nilakantha. Let's do some reading examples. So the first step, as always, is to break each character down. But the little twist to this is that the consonant clusters act as its own character. Just like how consonants with vowel sounds act as its own character. Please do bear in mind to recognize any consonant cluster forms that we discussed so far. So half-letter forms of nya, na, na, and ma, as well as any stacking that's done by the letter nga. Then you, of course, transliterate each character and you combine it at the end, of course, factoring any vowel markings, anusvaras, and visargas. So let's read this word. So if you break the characters down correctly, you'll see that there are actually three. You have 1, 2, even though this looks a little odd, but it is actually one character in between, and then 3. Then we transcribe each character. So the first character is the letter A, the very first letter in our study of Devanagari. Then the second character, you can identify that as a consonant cluster because the first part of that letter looks like the half-letter form of nya. And then the second half of that character is a full form of ja, so you get nja. And then finally, the last syllable has the letter la with the long e added to it to get li. There are no anusvaras or visargas in this word. So this word is read as Anjali. Anjali means an offering to or a homage to. Let's read another word. So the first step is to break them down by characters. If you look at this carefully, you'll actually see that there are 3 characters. You got 1, you got a very long second character, and a third. Then we're going to transcribe each character. So the first character looks pretty straightforward. It's ga. There are no vowel markings or anything applied to it, so it's just written as ga. The second character looks a little bit complicated, but let's break them down step by step. So the first part of the character looks like the half-letter form of ma, so you just write and then you see the full form of the letter bha, so you write bha, bh. But the whole character has the long e applied to it on the right of the letter. Remember, the long e is always to the right, whereas the short e is to the left. In this case, the long e is to the right, so you write the long e symbol to get mbhi. And then the last letter is the letter ra. There are no vowel markings on the letter ra. There is a visarga, which we'll talk about in just a bit, but you'll see that it is just written as ra, R-A. This word does have a visarga on the right of the ra, so we do apply the visarga. And this word is therefore read as gambhiraha. Gambhiraha. Gambhiraha means serious or very grave. Let's do another example. So the first step is to break the word down by characters. So we have 3 characters. We have 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to transliterate each character. So the first character that you see is the letter la. There are no vowel markings or anything special done to the letter la, so we just write it as is. The second character, you could tell that this is a consonant cluster because you can see the letter la being stacked on top of another letter. And that other letter is the letter ga. So you have nga on top and ga on the bottom to get nga. But that whole consonant cluster has the short e to it. Remember, the short e is to the left of the letter. So this whole syllable is read as nki. And finally, the last letter is the letter ta. There are no vowels or anything special applied to the letter ta, so we just write it as is. No anusvaras or visargas here in this word. So this word is read as langhita. Langhita means crossing over. With all the practice that we've done in this lesson, I think it's time for a quiz. This material is very advanced, and it's going to get even more advanced in the upcoming lessons. So please make sure you understand how to do consonant clusters with the nasal elements. If you can do that very efficiently in this lesson, you will be one step ahead of the game for the next lesson. So please look at the quiz. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below or contact me via kksongs.org. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you next week where we expand our knowledge of consonant clusters. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.